Alright, so next round, and our hand is excellent. Um, we have a tune and Whirler Virtuoso, which a tune is great with Whirler Virtuoso since it turns it almost into a Whirler Rogue. It's very easy to get just two Thopters early on in the game. If this Harnessed Lightning or an Aether Hub generates an extra energy, then we just have a nice sink for our energy to make Thopters. Alright, so this hand is great. We have all our mana, some removal, and a little bit of action. So our opponent mulligans, and then bottoms their top card. Alright, the classic Thraben Inspector start. So we obviously never want to see Thraben Inspector into Smuggler's Copter. That's like the best start in Standard, but we do have Harnessed Lightning for it. And that's exactly what our opponent does. And then we draw Long Tusk Cub, which gives us the classic dilemma. Leave up Harnessed Lightning for Smuggler's Copter, or play our creature. And as you can see, I decided to leave up Harnessed Lightning. Incendiary Flow, we're not Incendiary Flowing this. So it's just between these two. If we Long Tusk Cub, we get on the board, but we're guaranteed getting hit by Smuggler's Copter. If we leave up Harnessed Lightning, I think it's better if our opponent activates Smuggler's Copter. And we can even kill it through the any sort of buff card that makes it a 4/4 as well. So if our opponent is planning on activating Smuggler's Copter into our open mana, I think we want to leave up Harnessed Lightning. If we think they're going to not, though, I think we want to Long Tusk Cub, which then allows them to activate Smuggler's Copter for free, but I still think that's better for us than just doing nothing on our turn and letting them continue to develop their board. Now, our opponent is sneaky and doesn't activate Smuggler's Copter, which is a great play from them, and not one I see people making nearly enough. I feel people are too aggressive with their Smuggler's Copters, which is partially why I just left up Harnessed Lightning, is because people are often just YOLOing it in anyways. But now we're in an awkward spot because our opponent is actually developing a Cultivator's Caravan, which we can't even Harness Lightning. Like, I would have had a decision to Harness Lightning any sort of drop that wasn't Thraben Inspector quality. Any 3-drop, like Depala, I would have obviously Harnessed Lightning in an instant, but like Pia or the 3/1 that +1/+1's vehicles, I wouldn't have really wanted to Harness Lightning compared to Incendiary Flow. And our opponent has basically the best possible turn there. And we are left looking quite the fool. So here we could leave up Harness Lightning again, but I think that's going to be a losing battle at this point, especially since next turn we can cast it and a 2-drop. So I like just slamming down Whirler Virtuoso and trying to get on the board. And if we can make it to Confiscation Coup without being dead, we should be in a reasonable spot as well. Alright, so there's Veteran Motorist, which is going to be great for crewing these, and we just get bashed for a bundle. And I decide just to take it and save my Thopters and energy for a future turn, since at this point our life total is the resource we're going to be giving up on since we have to deal with these threats. Alright, here I can make the double removal play, get rid of Veteran Motorist, and leave up Harness Lightning. And that should slow things down. Alright, Pia is good from our opponent. And here we're just, right now, even though our opponent has clues, their mana is going to be tied up for quite some time. So we still don't want them looting. And Cultivator's Caravan is also a bit easier to chump. So we don't want them like finding a Gideon or anything. So we're going to do that, and it saves us a bit of energy to put into Whirler tokens as well. Alright, so here I can either Confiscation Coup or Flagship. I decide to Confiscation Coup the Cultivator's Caravan. I'm not even sure if that's the right move, honestly. I had the ability to Sky Sovereign, shoot Pia, and then I could even crew up the Skyship and block the Cultivator's Caravan, which might have been better. Although this is pretty good too, because now I have Whirler Virtuoso that can make a 1/1 and can block on the board and can block the Thopter. I think I like the Sky Sovereign play better though in retrospect, because it seems better against a Gideon, because our opponent would have had to have tapped out with the Cultivator's Caravan for Gideon, and then then we can pressure a Gideon much better. So I think, considering Gideon, I would have made this play, but so I think I messed up there. But this is still an okay play. Alright, makes it so we can't block. We go down to 5. And so now we can ship and Incendiary Flow, which is pretty good. But we don't have any energy to crew up the Sky Sovereign. But we're looking to be very far ahead at this point. So now I'm thinking about Unlicensed Disintegration, now that our opponent has black mana. So our opponent's at 20. So we want to kill them before they can kill us, essentially. And Unlicensed Disintegration is one of the main ways to do that at this point. But they can't cast it this turn. So we get as aggressive as reasonable, and we don't even mind if somehow this Thraben Inspector hits us, because essentially 5 is the same as 4, since most of the bursts of damage are going to be in 3 damage. And our opponent didn't sack their clue at end of turn, so we basically know that they have Unlicensed Disintegration because this is their only artifact, so that would be the reason why they're keeping it, is because of Unlicensed Disintegration. But I decide to crew the ship anyways. I'm not sure why I did that. Oh right, I do know why I did that. It's because I could crew the Cultivator's Caravan anyways, and this is still basically being as aggressive as possible. Since this allows us to attack with as many creatures as we possibly can this turn. Although I could have just crewed up the Caravan and tried to attack with that, but then our opponent could have just taken the Caravan hit and Unlicensed Disintegration a blocker, and then we wouldn't have been able to crew the Sky Sovereign. So this play might actually be correct here. And then I forget to attack. I click through my Cultivator's Caravan, which is not correct. Do not do that. And flow is a good draw. So here I'm just thinking we're going to die at some point. If we had have hit our opponent for 5, we would be in a much better position. Our opponent didn't sack their clue there, which I think is a mistake. I think they should be sacking the clue. Even if they draw Unlicensed Disintegration, that gives them another draw and an artifact as well. And there's just too many relevant cards you could hit that, like Gideon, that could help in this situation, even though they don't immediately end the game. And then Aetherworks Marvel is not what we want in this matchup or at this particular time. But we can make it so our opponent has to chump off their board, and we represent lethal. And then they whiff and die. So good for us. Good for us. As for sideboarding, we basically want to get rid of getting rid of our cards in our deck. We have plenty we want to get rid of. Aetherworks Marvel, Jaces are too slow for this matchup. Confiscation Coup is a little bit better, but also iffy, and Tireless Tracker is a little slow as well. So these are the first cards we're looking to get rid of. As for putting in, we want our top end to be Sky Sovereign in this matchup. It's good against Gideon. It's good against just the creatures, clearing the board, a way to wrap up the game. We definitely want all the Radiant Flames, and definitely want natural states and root outs for dealing with all the vehicles. So this is reasonable to take out and reasonable to put in for this matchup, 6 and 6. You could switch around Confiscation Coup and Tireless Tracker here. Confiscation Coup is better if you expect them to go a bit bigger with like their own skyships. And yeah, basically depending on what you think, either Tracker or Confiscation Coup, I would say, for this matchup. So game 2, and we're again on the draw, and again we have a great play, or a great hand, which will yield great plays. So we're going to keep this, and again our opponent mulligans, which, I mean, is good for us, as you may know. So our opponent mulligan both games, which is going to make these games go a little bit smoother for us. Alright, so not the greatest start, that's for sure. So here we have the decision between Servant or Incendiary Flow. I kind of like Servantine here because it allows for a much more powerful turn 3. We'll be able to double cast our spells, and right now this board, like, we're happy to just take 3 off of this. And my past self agrees. And we do get Galvanic Bombarded, which is a good power play, developing the Caravan. And now I want to get rid of this, I assume. No, I did not want to do that. Oh, I remember why I did this. Because of Gideon, again, which actually makes perfect sense. I agree with you, past self. Incendiary Flow would have been a mistake. Because now, yeah, I specifically remember considering Gideon, and I think that's what our opponent does. So now, if our opponent Gideons, we can go Harness Lightning, Incendiary Flow, kill off both creatures, pump up the Long Tusk Cub, and kill the Gideon, which is exactly what happens. So good play. Good. And killing a Gideon immediately is always huge, and we even get a lot of value off the Harness Lightning since we generated 2 energy with it. And then Pia, but we're pretty far ahead by now. Our opponent's running on fumes, and we drew one of the best draws possible in root out. Able to get rid of the caravan. And now our clock is just massive, and we're able to potentially block. Opponent goes for an emblem, which I like, but it's going to be hard for them to close out the game here most of the time. They really just have the Thopter pumping up, which, I mean, we should be able to race that most of the time. And yep, go for 8 points to threaten lethal next turn with either this hitting or both of these hitting, which means our opponent can't just pump up their Thopter, and we're even going to get to draw off the clue at end of turn. And Incendiary Flow basically means the game is over. Our opponent doesn't even have their black mana. So, I mean, that game looked simple. Our opponent mulliganed, but we still could have messed up and lost to the Gideon if we hadn't have had the power play from the Long Tusk Cub. So knowing your opponent's deck, the small little interactions like that, what your opponent's most powerful play next turn, I attribute that to our win. So good for us.